Contrary to popular belief, corona is not a hoax. The virus is real. Be responsible. Wear a mask. Wash your hands with soap and water and avoid crowded places. Maintain physical distancing. Be responsible. Together, we can overcome the pandemic.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Abraham, you are one family.
There's no doing all this sport in Nigeria.
See how your body just dripping diamond.
Whenever there are misunderstandings with both couples, I think it's not easy to settle it when they are from different cultural backgrounds. You understand? So, for instance, an Efik guy marrying to an Efik girl, at times when there are issues, they can understand themselves. You understand? Then an Igbo guy now going to marry a Yoruba guy. You know, at times this Yoruba lifestyle that we all know is party things. The guy may not be able to flow with what is happening on in their background. You understand? Likewise to the Igbo guy too. So when it goes with an Igbo guy to an Igbo girl, at times the flow is easy because they understand the concept from the background.
You know, mostly the background we come from. Like maybe you are from the Middle Belts, precisely Benue State or so. You wanted to marry from the Igbo. Most of the family will say, we don't want you to marry from Igbo. Maybe they might not understand your language and you will not understand them. Many will say their marriage, whatever, is high and all those things. It affects a lot. And if you said, okay, to the Yoruba people, they will say, no, culture, this and that we have a higher culture system than their own. When you get married to them, they might be going out different from your own and all those things. So that affects a lot.
Yes, I think it affects mainly, like you said, for the like Idomans or maybe those thief in Benue State. If you should marry a thief person, they believe the girl or the woman goes out to shit on your wife or something. And for the Igbos, when you go, if you should marry them, then they feel maybe during if they want to give them any chieftain title, they will say, okay, no, they will not because she's not from their own side. So I think it's a fair, but if you should look at it in a normal reason.
Well, personally, I don't think, but I believe that it's individualistic, as in everybody have different individual differences. So some people might not see it as something, but other people might see it as something. But personally, I think it doesn't really matter.
What really matters is love. So as long as the love exists between the two people we are talking about. So cultural background doesn't have say. So it's love that supersedes.
I don't think cultural background should affect people's relationship. Because in the 21st century, people should be able to love according to your feelings. Being a Yoruba and Igbo does not mean anything. All you needed in a relationship is just the understanding. Once you can be able to study the person very well, and her character aligns with yours, it can start like a dating to courtship, from courtship, then to a serious relationship. And then once you can be able to find out that everything can work well for you, then you can go ahead into the relationship. So this idea of this, I think in this modern time, we should not be talking about cultural background affecting our relationship with people.
Abraham, you are one family.
There's no doing all this sport in Nigeria.
See how your body just dripping diamond.
This madam has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
We now start hearing the shoot of gun.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State accuses Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai of exporting banditry to the south. And 2023 Southern Presidency is sacrosanct, Afenifere says, supporting Southern governors. This is Plus Politics, and I am Mary Aniko. The Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has berated his counterpart in Kaduna State, Malam Nasser El-Rufai, over the latest comment on anti-grazing law. Well, El-Rufai had described the anti-open grazing laws being signed by some southern governors as unrealistic. However, Akeredolu in a statement said such a statement should have not come from a leader. He reiterated that the anti-open grazing law, especially in Ondo State, had come to stay. He said that if truly Governor El-Rufai made these statements, then it means that he is struggling hard to export banditry to the south. Well, joining us to discuss this is Thompson Okorotie. He is the Deputy National Chairman of PANDEF. And we also have Chrissy Taminola. He is a legal practitioner. Thank you very much, Ms. Taminola, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Apologies for the inconveniences due to power failure and the rest of that. I'm happy to be here.
All right. So it's interesting that we are seeing this war of words between two governors, one in the north and one in the south. And let's also, cast our minds back to the fact that southern governors across party lines had taken a position on open grazing in the southern parts of the country because of the issue of banditry. Now, we also have seen reactions coming from other governors in the north saying that it is a political conspiracy of sorts. And here we are again, Governor Akeredolu and Governor El-Rufai having this back and forth. But now let's not also forget that we've seen one southern governor who has taken a step back and cancelled, or rather unbanned, open grazing in his state, and that's the Imo State governor. Which means that he's backpedaled, and so open grazing can happen in his state. But let's look at the basis of this matter. A law is a law, obviously, and open grazing is a business of sorts. And if a state is saying that this is what they want, why should that be a problem? And do you think this is politically motivated in the first instance?
Well, first and foremost, let me commend our democracy for this. by background, Akeredolu and the governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, are both APC governors. And that the two of them can have a divergent views is good for our democracy. It's not being drawn on party lines. Having said that, we have reiterated time without a number that by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Nigeria, by implication, is intended to be a federation. And if it is a federation, you are expected, you have the center, and then you have the federating states. And
Mr. Taminola, are you still there? I think we have network connection issues and we can't hear you, or you're frozen up. But can you hear me? Well, we're having a little connection issue. We'll just try and see if... Let's try it again. Mr. Taminola, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so like I was saying earlier on, the most important thing is, first and foremost, I stated that the fact that El-Rufai and Akeredolu, who are APC members, governors could differ, is good for our democracy. It shows that on varying opinions, governors can have divergent views. That is good for our democracy, cutting across party lines. And having said that, it's imperative for us to know that if we acknowledge the fact that we are a federation, it means that the varying states must definitely all have powers to express their goodwill, express their opinion as they believe it. I mean, as practiced all over the world. I mean, Los Angeles, I beg your pardon, one state in America will take a decision, and it will differ from that opinion from another state in America. And yet the presidency is not going to sound otherwise about it. By the Nigerian constitution, the states have powers to make laws that are suitable to them. The presidency cannot impose its own opinion, let alone El-Rufai making the decisions have been taken from the South. Not only South, across the various states in Nigeria previously up till now, that open grazing is anti-people. And to that extent, for goodness sake, why can't you respect the opinions of the various governors and the states? Let me stop there.
Mr. Taminola, I'm curious because the truth is, from time, since I was born, I've always seen nomads. I've seen these cattle rearers move from one place to the other. Migration is in their DNA. Now, in 2021, bandits have come under the guise of, cattle rearers and has caused a security issue for us. Normally, one would ask that, let's say Mieti Allah, deal with the issue by trying to stay off the road so that we can catch those people who are masquerading as, cattle rearers in the guise of bandits. But telling these people not to move around the country, how easy do we think that this is going to be? Because El-Rufai is making a case that it's not something that can happen overnight, but that the governors are making a law that is unimplementable. And he also said that they're politicizing, and that's why I asked you at the beginning, do you think that this issue has a political undertone? Is it that the South is trying to take advantage of the situation that is happening in the Northwest to, push these business people away?
The answer is absolutely no. And the basis of it is this. Look, 2021 is not 1899. 2021 is certainly not 1960, nor even 1970. And let me tell you something. Up till shortly before 1999, Nigerians lived together irrespective of their political, social, religious belief, without any form of divide, without any form of bias. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that the present-day administration, not necessarily whether it is APC or PDP, I'm not sure the present administrations are helping in relation to building trust amongst, not just among the federating states, but amongst the people. Today we have intermarriages. between North and South, between Christians and Muslims and whatsoever. And why can't it be? There is, under normal circumstances and ordinarily, there is nothing wrong that what they call a cattle rearer is moving from the north to south. But in the event that it moves from north to south and what they call, he commits some vices, he breaches some etiquette, what are the laws and what are the realities on ground? What are the evidences to show that such set of people have been brought to book while you are bringing to book other people from maybe from the east, from the south, in the western region regarding coal and so on? Look at what is happening in the eastern region regarding Nnamdi Kanu. How many people in the north will you be able to say? Well, some, when you say cattle rearers, while you say talk about this set of people, you cannot generalize. You can't form an opinion to say that all cattle rearers are evil men. But it is definitely true that some cattle rearers definitely are evil men. And of course, where these have been found culpable, what are the evidences? I mean, for goodness sake, in River State, in Port Harcourt, you go to the, what they call it, Agri Road, you go to Elele, you go to, these are settlements of where you see Hausa people or the Fulanis or the cattle rearers and the rest of that. But while you come, do you acknowledge that the host community is also entitled to having an expression in terms of how they feel about you? Can we also go in the same manner to the north and feel at home without being threatened and whatsoever? These are the issues. And I think that the presidency can do a lot more by seeking, appealing to the consciences of the various governors and through the governors to the people. What the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who came by democratic principles, ought to do in this situation is not to force himself to choke the governors and the states and whatsoever, but to give an impression that he's a father not just to the north, but to all the federating states.
Okay.
At the moment, I'm not sure that I'm seeing that speaking.
I mean, I as much as it's interesting that the president wades into the matter, state governors themselves have to also appeal to each other's consciences. But let me go to what Governor El-Rufai has said recently. He did say that his state has embarked on a 10 billion naira cattle ranch project to centralize all herders in his state. He's also talked about the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria was supporting the state with about 7.5 billion naira for the success of that project. So they are actually going to build some ranching in Kaduna State. Now, in response to that, of course, Governor Akeredolu is saying, well, if you are doing this in your state, why are you kicking against the fact that we are one way or the other trying to get these people to go into ranching? Now, I'd like to quickly go to what Governor Akeredolu said. I'd like to just quote him directly. He said, firstly, there is no wisdom in condemning or banning open grazing, prohibiting the inter-border movement of cattle in the north, including Kaduna, with accompanying disapproval of a law that gives bite to same in another part of the country. Then he goes ahead to say, perhaps it's apt to state clearly that the likes of El-Rufai are already in a hysteric mode of escalating and indeed externalizing banditry, especially as the military onslaught against criminal elements and other terror variants suffices in the north. I'm trying to understand how and why a governor like El-Rufai will be escalating or trying to export banditry to the south. Do you not think that that statement was a bit too sensitive in terms of, somewhat saying that maybe Governor El-Rufai is trying to push banditry down to the south?
Well, the reality is the reality, and you can't shy away from it. That's what El-Rufai has stated. And to an extent, I sympathize with him. I sympathize with him because it appears he is speaking out of frustration. Right now, definitely, as far as Kaduna State is concerned, El-Rufai is doing more than he can. And I can assure you there is a great amount of insecurity in that particular place. But having said that, El-Rufai should also appreciate that the rest of the people were citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that we are a state. And that if we are a state, we also have the responsibility to taking our destinies into our hands. That a governor decides that, okay, I mean, we are not accepting this order, we do not yet see it this way, does not mean that it will remain like that tomorrow. Now, having said that, the federal government gave you 10 billion. Let the federal government extend 10 billion to the rest of the federating states now, including and particularly River State, where I belong. And let's see the reaction of our governor. Just by example now, several states were given the privilege listed for purpose of taking overseas loan and whatsoever. River State was excluded. What impression are you trying to give? And of course, when it comes to that, and somebody will say that.
But what if states like River State can actually afford to fund itself? River State is the second largest revenue received from the state coffers every month. They get almost the second largest, if I'm not mistaken, after Lagos. So I mean, why would they want to be giving them loans? And I'm not saying that the River State does not qualify for a loan, but maybe the states who are being given priority are states that are struggling. Have you thought about that?
35 states, including Abuja, were given were enlisted as exclusive of a River State. So if you think that is because we are self-sufficient, state it so. Be direct about it. Do not go about it, by way of innuendo. Be stated categorically that this is the reason. But don't do so because that is Lagos State, not greater than River State. Why are they enlisted? But that's not the issue we are talking about now. The most important thing is presidency because we entrusted you to have great amount of wisdom. We entrusted you with great amount of excellence, candor in relation to governance, in relation to administration, in relation to cohesiveness. Well, Nigeria is a great country, and we are not about to scatter. We also definitely are looking forward to a presidency that is going to ensure that we will not only scatter, but we are seen not to scatter. These things are definitely not good elements in any particular form.
Finally, let me just quickly, because we're almost out of time. Why do you think that the Imo State governor backpedaled on the issue of open grazing? And let's not also forget that Imo State has had its fair share of, internal problems, even though they're not mostly related to banditry, but there might be also pockets of violence, related to other things. Why do you think the governor decided to push back on it after he had said yes?
I can tell you clearly it's political. Imo State governor, I can tell you boldly that, look, you may be in APC, but for goodness sake, go beyond the party lines. I mean, show to the whole world that in taking your decisions that you are people-oriented. I'm not sure that Imo State governor has reflected that. Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you. Barrister Christy Taminola is a lawyer. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. We appreciate it.
I'll always be here whenever you want me. God bless you.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, we discuss Afenifere's stand on Southern presidency. We'll take a short break. What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 when they pay.
The Pan-Yoruba Socio-Political Organization, Afenifere, has expressed support for calls by the Southern Governors Forum that presidency should be zoned to the South in 2023. Now, the National Secretary General of the association, Shola Ebiseni, stated this in a statement issued. He said that it was President Umar Musa Yar'Adua that was elected on 29th of May 2007 and died May 5th of 2010, who could not complete his 8 years, thereby supposedly depriving the North of some 4 years. He also called on political stakeholders from the South to not be lured into the unpatriotic step of seeking such other positions as national chairman of main political parties, but join forces to demand and ensure that the presidency moves to the South in 2023. Well, joining us to discuss this is Sir Ayo Okpadokun. He is the leader of the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Okay, good evening.
Yes. It's interesting that Mr. Biseni is saying that the Southern members in political parties should not accept party chairmanship. But unfortunately, the PDP has zoned its national chairmanship as we speak to the South, meaning that there is no hope in terms of zoning the presidency to the South.
Well, I'm sorry that I don't want to be drawn into this your discussion because that's not the.
Yes, but Afenifere has been a group that is asking for power to bring.
I'm not a member of Afenifere. I've left Afenifere since 2001.
But you're a Southern leader, I'm
General Secretary and a spokesman of the National Democratic Coalition at DECO.
But the truth is, all of the Southerners are asking for the same thing, whether it be Afenifere, whether it be NADECO. Even the Southern governors have come across political parties to ask for a Southern presidency.
I'm saying to you that I have very slight regard for the discussion about.
We cannot hear you anymore. Can you hear me? We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll try to get that connection back. Stay with us.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
we're still talking about the zoning of party presidency tickets across all political parties for 2023 to the South. And still with us is Ayo Opadokun. He's a leader of the National Democratic Coalition. Thank you for joining us. We apologize for the net connection hiccups. So you were saying
that NADECO is not really interested in any partisan posturing. Our concern is that until Nigeria returns to federal system of government, election is not our priority. 2023 is not our priority. And I ask the question, what has Nigeria got positively on the various elections that have been held in the country since 1998? How many elections have been held? How has those elections impacted positively on the Nigerian people? So we don't want to get involved on this unproductive venture. Our concern seriously is that Nigeria secured its independence on a federal constitutional arrangement which recognizes the fact that Nigeria is an heterogeneous country that has over 350 ethnic nationalities with their different languages, different cultures, different customs, different traditions, different religion, different artifacts, different folklores, different morals, and the likes. That is, and when we had that, all the wickedness, all the atrocities that have been witnessed in the last, since the army staged a violent military insurrection against the civilian regime of Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, who was the prime minister, were not witnessed by them. So we want a restoration. That is the constitution, the 1960-1963 constitution remained the only. All the degrees made amount of by the military, they remain illegitimate, legal. They are product of our legality. In fact, they are treasonable till tomorrow. So we don't want to get involved in this unproductive venture.
Let me ask, because you say you do not, that the election process is unproductive and you are interested in a democracy. What is a democracy without an election? And if you are not happy with what is happening, what has NADECO been doing for the past election cycles? What advocacies have they pushed, and how powerful, what breakthroughs have you gotten? Because it's not enough to say, well, we're not interested in this thing because it's an exercise in futility. But what are you doing to change that process and make it an exercise that would pay the process?
As a journalist, I expected you to be aware that I remain the convener of the Coalition of Democrats for Electoral Reform.
This is public knowledge. I know this. But I'm asking you now, I'm putting you on the spot, sir, because you are on national TV. I appreciate what you're doing. We know what you do. Every journalist who knows about NADECO knows what you're doing. But I ask again, you can't just say that the exercise is an exercise in futility. What do we do if we want a change of sorts and we haven't gotten that change? Because we're going to keep having elections because we are in a democracy of sorts. And if you say that these elections are worthless and it's something that you don't want to exert your energy on, where does that leave us as a country and as a people?
At all. You see, the oppressors, those who are unduly benefiting from this so-called election, are the ones trying to guillotine the entire populace that election is the answer, whereas it is not, because they know the machinations they fit into it, and the kind of people that will be so-called, who will be able to use stolen funds to bribe the electorate to vote for them, to bribe the electoral officers to manipulate the result, to bribe the security agents to look the other side, and to even bribe the election tribunal to confirm legitimacy to their illegitimate so-called victory. So those are not the kind of things that worth the while of people like us at this stage. We commit too much for the current. You wanted a democratic system. What you now have is a civilian government, not a democratic government. So nobody should be deceived. People like us cannot be deceived. There's nothing democratic in what's going on.
And so it takes me back to what I asked. Yes, we know that there are people who are not happy with the system. Nigerians obviously are not happy. And you and I are in this country. We've seen all the things that have played out in the past few years, even before this administration. But when we say, again, that the system is rigged against the average Nigerian, is rigged against us. It's now us versus them, according to what you're saying, that these things no longer interest you. I'm still asking the question, where does that leave us? Because you sound more like you've been there, you've done that. So what do we do? Throw our hands up in the air? How do Nigerians try to unrig this system that you think is rigged against us?
No. Nigerians should be ready to take their destiny into their hands.
How?
And what do they do? On each street, in each hamlet, they should mobilize themselves for street action to demand that the current system is unsuitable and unacceptable, and that they will not vote in any other election. No election will be conducted again until we return to federal system of government upon which Nigeria secured its independence. That's the basic document upon which Nigeria was admitted into the Committee of Nations called the United Nations Organization. So all that we are doing is an illegality, and because we have submitted ourselves cheaply as subservient people to the diktat of the military junta. That's why we are today. It is time that we win ourselves over from the oppressors, and that's what Nadiko started on June 11 for the June 12th of this year. We wrote an open letter to President Buhari talking about the atrocity that he has committed since he got into office. And
we also know that you wrote a letter in June of 2021 to Nadeko, and you sent an SOS to the United Nations over President Buhari's government. But I don't know what reactions that the United Nations would bring to us. They would only continue to advocate. But I'd just like to take your mind back to October of 2020. That was the last time Nigerians who seemed fed up emptied into the streets. And you can see that we're still going back and forth on what happened at the climax of that protest, which was not just about ending police brutality, but it was also asking for good governance. So when you say Nigerians should no longer vote, they should ask for or get some action done, you have seen how every time Nigerians want to protest or Nigerians stand up against something, the full might of security and the government is seen at those spots.
Look, well, I don't know how old you are. But when I speak from the best of intention and from experience. I remain the general secretary and spokesman of Nadeko. We did it since 1994. We protested, we were harassed, we were not upset, and we never related. Nobody will give you your rights cheaply on the plot of gold. You must fight for it. Every day you stop fighting for your rights, that day your oppressors will continue to do you greater harm. You must be ready to face the oppressor squarely, that you are fed up with his conduct. That is why our nations are built. But if you are crying, you are just lamenting, every day lamenting. Lamentation will not solve your problem, and it will not help you.
I'm interested.
Your oppressors will be happy that you are lamenting.
I might not be as old as you, but of course I am informed, just as you asked me how old I am. But I'm going to still again tell you that there are people who were killed at the Lekki toll. We're not going too far. Just last year, because they came out in your words, to continue to press home their demands. As we speak today, where are the people who are supposed to support, to continue to, who's going to stay if they see bullets flying over their heads? Who's going to let their child, or which man or woman is going to come out? Let's be realistic. Since we're saying let's be realistic. How many Nigerians are going to stay the course? We've seen Occupy Nigeria. We've seen all of these things. How many Nigerians are willing to come out and press home their demands?
Stop preaching this homily to people like us. I say to you that anyone who wants to secure his rights must be ready to die for it if that is what it costs. There are times in the life of any nation when people should be ready to be martyred for the advancement of that community. When there is nothing like that, when nobody is ready to take the bullets to sleep in police cell, and you want your right to be given to you by the oppressor, then you better go home and sleep. Just surrender.
Interesting. So I'm also expecting that we will see more people from NADECO occupying the streets or occupying National Assembly.
You will see that I'm 75 today, by the last month, by the grace of God. I've spent the last 75 years doing the same thing. I've never relented. So you are not the one to be asking NADECO to come. Our affiliates are already busy doing something.
Oh, I think we lost that connection, unfortunately. Mr. Padoko, are you still there? Let's just wrap this up. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, quickly. So in closing, for every Nigerian who's listening to you now, finally, as we leave, because we're almost out of time, you're saying NADECO has been doing this. Like I said before you went off, that connection was off. I know that in June of 2021, NADECO sent an SOS to the UN over President Buhari's government. And of course, there have been so many other memos that have been going out of the country complaining about the government or the system of governance in Nigeria. But as we speak, we see a lot of people leaving Nigeria with this brain drain. We're seeing our doctors fleeing. There are lots of people who are running away from this country. And you're saying that if we're not ready to take bullets and sleep in police stations, then the times may never change for us and the country will continue to go in the direction that it is going. What's the motivation that the average Nigerian who's watching you should take home from this conversation?
They must be ready to take their destiny into their hands. You have to organize and mobilize to resist oppressors. If you are not ready to do that, then surrender.
All right. We want to say thank you. Sir Ayo Padokun is of NADECO, and he's been our guest tonight. Thank you very much for joining us, and apologies for the connection issues.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, we want to thank you all for being part of the conversation tonight. Unfortunately, we do not have more time to continue talking. Well, I am Mariana, and we'll see you tomorrow. Again, as the week is wrapping up, we will bring you a roundup of all our conversations so far. Good evening.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion